Welcome Junior Tuckies, my name is Mrs. Rambla. This is a video for the grade 12s to help them prepare for their final exams. In this video, we're going to look at the grade 12, paper 1, the November 2014. And here I've just selected important questions. Grade 12s, there are certain sections that had to do with human impact, and I cut them out because human impact is not required for your matric syllabus anymore. Right, before you watch the video, make sure you have the question paper and the memo at hand. Right. I'll start off with question 1.2, which is terminology. This is important grade 12 because terminology is now becoming a question that most people are getting wrong, especially with regards to the spelling. So if you look, I have the question paper in large and next to it very small, the memo. Sometimes it's easy to have the two together than having two separate pieces of paper in your hand, and then you can sit and relax and watch the video as I explain to you. Okay, now 1.2.1. The membranes that protect the central nervous system. Now, the question is the membranes, grade 12. Okay, they didn't ask the fluid, they didn't ask the bone, they asked the membrane. So your answer should be meninges. Okay, look at how meninges is spelled. 122. A plant growth hormone that stimulates seed germination. G, germination. I remember the hormone responsible for germination, gibberellins, because it starts with the G. Again, look at the spelling of gibberellins. If you're struggling, try to sound out the word. Or learn the word like that by sounding them out. 1, 2, 3. The nervous system that consists of the cranial and the spinal nerves. Can you see the key word is nerves? It didn't say spinal cord and brain, it said nerves. So immediately that's the peripheral nervous system. 1, 2, 4. The branch of the autonomic nervous system. It's a branch, okay, that decreases the heartbeat back to normal. That's parasympathetic. Again, look at the spelling of parasympathetic. Right, 1 to 5. The outermost extraembryonic membrane surrounding the embryo. They're telling you outermost extraembryonic membrane surrounding the embryo that you should know is chorion. Look at how chorion is spelled as well. Right, 1 to 6. The hormone that regulates the salt concentration in the human body, that you know, aldosterone. Nothing challenging there. 1 to 7. The blood vessel in the umbilical cord that carries blood rich in oxygen and nutrients. This, grade 12s, make a note of. It's always going to come up in your exam because learners get this wrong. The umbilical cord, the blood vessel that carries oxygenated blood, is the vein. The vein, not the artery. Okay, make a note of that. 1 to 8. The hormone inhibited by an increased level of thyroxine. If the amount of thyroxine increases, that has a relationship with which hormone? Thyroid stimulating hormone. I would prefer to write the full word, not the abbreviation. It's very easy to make mistakes with abbreviations. Okay, 1 to 9. The period of development of an embryo in the uterus between fertilization and birth, that is gestation. And the last one, the structure in the head of a sperm cell that contains enzymes which break down the membrane surrounding the ovum, that's the acrosome. Let's be honest, grade 12s, that wasn't too difficult. Right, it was quite easy. Make sure you know how to spell. 1.3, year. In this year, there was 5 questions, right? And 5 questions, look how many marks, 10 marks. You have to follow the instructions. Look at the memo. A only, B only, none. Both A and B. You have to use the words only, both A and B, or none. Please follow the instructions. Right, let's look at the questions. So we know the instructions. We've done this already. Make sure you stick to the instructions. 131. The embryo that is nourished with yolk found in an egg. Now, if you know between an ovipary and vivipary, ovipary is the only one that has a yolk. Vivipary, remember, it's connected by the placenta. So your answer is obviously A only. 131. It's human impact, grade 12. So if you don't mind, I will skip it. Right? It's not in your syllabus anymore. 133. The fetus that is attached to the mother's uterus, I just mentioned it to you earlier. It's vivipary. Can you see? It's none of your options. So your answer obviously will be none. 134. A young bird cannot feed or move independently after hatching. That you know. is B only. And then 135, as you can see, it has to do with human impact, so we will skip that. This wasn't too bad if you follow the instructions. 1.4. The diagram below represents the structure of the human eye. Give what? The letter and the name of the part, which 141 regulates the amount of light entering the eye. Regulates the amount of light entering the eye. Now, if you're looking at this diagram, you have to look and see what are labeled. Now, you're probably immediately waiting to write the pupil. But can you see the label of the pupil is not there? But what controls the pupil? It's the iris. Can you see? A is the iris. So A, iris for 141, controls the amount of light. 142. What part, letter and name supplies food and oxygen to the eye? You should already know. It's the middle layer. It's C. It's the choroid. Okay. 143. What transmits impulses to the brain? We know that's the optic nerve. Where's the optic nerve? That's E, optic nerve. 144. What contains, letter and name contains cones and is the area of the clearest vision? That's D. That's your yellow spot or the fovea. And the last one, the letter and the name of the part which assists in the refraction of light rays. If you look at the structure, there's many of the eye. There's many structures that help with the refraction, but look at the ones that's labeled. Can you see? Only B is labeled, and that's the cornea. Okay, not too bad at all. Let's get to sections B, question 2. Study the diagrams below showing the male and female reproductive systems. 211. Identify parts A, B, and F. Now, A, can you see it's in the penis? It's a tube-like structure. When the vas deferens enters the penis, it's called the urethra. Look at the spelling. B. B, of course, you can see that's the tube that takes the sperm past the 3 glands. That's B, it's the vas deferens or the sperm duct. And then F, where's F? Here's F. That obviously you know is the fallopian tube or the oviduct. I would set out my paper in the exams as well, writing A, B, F, and the answers next to it. Right. 212. State one function of the following. The fluid produced by C. Now let's look at C. C is the prostate gland. How do I know it's the prostate gland? It's below the bladder. The prostate gland, we know, secretes a milky alkaline fluid that neutralizes acid in the female's body or in the male's body. The female's vagina, actually. There's the answer there in the memo. Also increases motility of sperm, provides nutrients. Only one they want. Then B. One function of each of the following. Part E. Where's part E? Oh, there's part E here. Part E is the uterus. So what will we say? Place for the fetus to develop, maintains pregnancy, assists in childbirth, implantation of the blastula. But now in 2022, we don't accept the word blastula. We accept the word blastocyst. So you can get rid of that word and you can change that. Protects the fetus, prevents infections, and passage of sperm cells, or allows sperms. That just means allows sperm cells to travel, right, between the vagina and the fallopian tube. Make sure you use the word fetus, baby, embryo in the right places. Okay, they only wanted first one. Okay, make sure your first answer is always the right answer, or your most correct answer that you know the best. 213. Give the letter only of the organ where meiosis takes place. In the male reproductive system, that will be D, right? That's in the testes. And in the female reproductive system, that will be G, the ovary. 214. Name the type of gametogenesis that takes place in the male reproductive system. That we know. Spermatogenesis. In the female reproductive system, oogenesis. 215. State two functions of part H. Part H is the vagina. It serves as a birth canal, allows for menstrual blood, endometrial blood, amniotic fluid, placenta to come out, receives semen, facilitates sexual intercourse, and secretes acid, which prevents infection. Again, you make sure you know your two answers. If there's something you don't know here that's new to you, write it in your notes, make sure you learn it. Okay. And the last one, 216, explain why it's necessary for part D to be outside the body in the males. Part D is the testes. Now we know the testes, sperm can only be produced at 2 degrees below body temperature. That is why the testes is outside the man's body. Look at the different options of the answers. Optimum temperature for sperm production for healthy sperm. So if it's not outside the male's body and it's not the optimum temperature, then healthy sperm cannot form. Make sure you say production of healthy sperm. Okay. Right, the next question, 2.2. The diagram below shows some of the changes that take place during the menstrual cycle. In this diagram, you see the growth of the follicle. So there's the follicle, there's the Graafian follicle bursting, there's the corpus luteum. And here's the endometrium lining sliding off and then building up again. Right, now, 2.2.1. The menstrual cycle is controlled by hormones. Name one hormone which will increase in the level between day 2 and 10. So it's about here. So can you see what is happening here at day 2 and 10? You can see. Around day 2 to 10, sorry. Day 2, 10. You can see the follicles becoming bigger and the endometrium is becoming thicker as well. So I would have said FSH or estrogen, as you can see in the memo. Give one observable reason, we just discussed it. You can say the follicle is developing. You can see the follicle is changing from a primary to a secondary to a Graafian follicle, right, under the influence of FSH, but that doesn't give you marks. And then you can see here, the endometrium lining is becoming thick vascular glandular. Okay. 2.2.3. Explain evidence from the diagram that indicates that fertilization took place. Now, can you see here, the corpus luteum continues to form, meaning the corpus luteum does not degenerate. It will continue to produce progesterone, which will continue to make the endometrium lining more thicker, more vascular, more glandular. Okay, and here's it all here. Yes, my answers are more detailed. I'm used to certain words that I use, and so you can listen to it, you can write my answers down, or you can stick to the memo. Whatever makes you more comfortable. Right, 2.2.4. Describe the developmental changes in the fertilized ovum until implantation occurs in the uterus. Right, a very important question to note. The zygote undergoes mitosis until a ball of cells is formed. The ball of cells is called morula. The morula continues to divide and forms a mass of cells with a hollow cavity called the blastocyst. The outer membrane of the blastocyst forms a chorionic villi, which attaches to the endometrium. NE5. This, from 2014, this question has been in every paper for the past few years. 2.2.5. Some females use an ovulation monitor so they can be aware of the days when they are fertile. These monitors measure the level of hormones in the blood. A. Why would females want to know when they're fertile? Why would they want to know when they're fertile? So they can either prevent copulation so they don't fall pregnant, or so they can copulate so they can fall pregnant. Either or. B. Explain which hormone is likely to be monitored by the ovulation monitor. It could have been LH, FSH, or estrogen, because there's a rise in each of these hormones, whichever hormone you said, around the time of ovulation. Right. The next question is on plant hormones, 2.3. A learner conducted an investigation to determine the effect of auxins and the effect of gravity on root growth. He used the following procedure. He germinated pea seeds for 7 days. He then took a sample of 15 seedlings and divided them into 3 groups, A to C, of 5 seedlings each. In each group, the 5 seedlings were placed horizontally on 3 different clinostats. In the picture, there's the clinostat. It's a device which has a disc that rotates at a constant speed. A diagram of a clinostat is shown below. He removed the root tips of all 5 seedlings at the same length in group B. In groups A and B, the clinostat was left stationary, meaning there was no rotation. In group C, the clinostat was allowed to rotate. All three clinostats were placed in a dark cupboard. A summary of the learner's procedure is shown in the table below. A. Root tips present, clinostat stationary. Group B. No root tips, stationary clinostat. Or Group C. Root tips present, rotating clinostat. Right. After 2 days, the direction of the root growth was observed. 2.3.1. Which 2 groups were used to obtain information about the effects of auxin on root growth? Here, it can only be A and B. Because can you see, one is root tips present, one is no root tips, and the clinostat is stationary. So that variable is constant, but here, there's the 2 different variables. One is an experiment, one is a control. Which two groups were used to obtain information about the effect of gravity on root growth? Effect of gravity on root growth, and that can only be A and C. How do I know that? One has root tips present, fixed variable, and then one has stationary clinostat and the other the rotating clinostat. One is the experiment and the other is the control. 232. Why the apparatus? Explain why the apparatus was placed in a dark cupboard. Now you want to make sure you're testing gravity and you don't want light to now affect your results. So you want to ensure the results are because of gravity and you don't want light to affect your experiment. Okay. 233. Describe the expected results for each of the groups B and C in this investigation. For B, there's no root tips, so there's no growth. C, of course, the roots will grow horizontally or they might not even change direction. This was good, the memo accepted both. Right. 234. Explain the expected results for group A. Now, how is it possible that the roots are growing downwards? So, you must remember this with geotropism, that the oxen in the root will move to the lower side because of gravity. There will be a high concentration on the lower side, and this inhibits growth, while growth will occur faster on the upper side, and this is what causes the root to bend. Make sure you know the geotropism in roots and stems before you go into your exam. And then 235, state 3 ways in which the learner ensured a high level of validity for this investigation. Ensured, meaning from the passage, what did he do? So you must go back to the passage. And if you remember, he used the same type of pea only. The seedlings were the same age, or they were germinated for 7 days. All the groups were exposed to the same light or environment, or light intensity, or they were placed in the dark cupboard. It was the same number of seedlings for each group. The root tips were cut at the same length. All the seedlings were placed horizontally. They allowed the same amount of time for the 3 groups, and appropriate controls were set up. So you remember, only 3 they want. And it was ensured, meaning you go back to the passage and you read which 3 allows them to ensure validity, the learner. Right, 3.3. The table below shows how body temperature is regulated by the hypothalamus by influencing heat production and heat loss. So if you look here, here's your body temperature, heat production, heat loss. 3.31. Are the blood vessels that supply blood to the skin constricted or dilated when the body temperature is 36? So heat production is 320, but heat loss is 5. That means if there's less heat that's being lost, those blood vessels must be constricted. 332. Explain the advantage of the diameter of the blood vessels being constricted or dilated. Explain now what's the advantage of constriction to the body. Now, if less blood flows to the skin, less heat is lost by radiation, which will cause less sweat to be formed. There will be less evaporation of the sweat, less cooling of the body, and most importantly, body heat will be conserved. Okay. Can you see in this answer it's less. Please can I ask you in each statement that you write, you use the word less. Okay. 333. Heat loss is the greatest at 37.4 degrees. Explain how the body is able to increase heat loss. So, how can you increase heat loss? Of course, your hypothalamus will be stimulated, which sends a message to the blood vessels of the skin to dilate. What's this called? Vasodilation. More blood flows to the surface of the skin. More heat is lost by radiation. More sweat is formed. More heat is lost by evaporation, and this will obviously increase heat loss. Can you see in this point also, we use the word more. Remember that. 3.4. Study the graph below showing the changes in glucagon concentration during exercise. 341. So, before we look at 341, let's look at the graph. Blood glucagon concentration, time, changes in blood glucagon concentration over time. 341. Describe the trend for the changes in the glucagon level over time. Can you see the blood glucagon level is increasing, right? And it goes from 100 to about 210. That's what the memo wants. So what here? 210. All right. And it goes from 0 to 20 minutes and then becomes constant. A trend is a pattern of the graph. You make sure you have your units, all your variables in this answer. Okay. Nice question. 342. Explain the changes in the level of glucagon from 0 to 10 minutes. Oops. 0 to 10 minutes. So what has happened? Why is the glucagon concentration increasing? Can you see that? Because the person is exercising, right? So the rate of cell respiration is increasing, right? What does cell respiration need? More glucose. How is that going to be brought about? More glucagon will be secreted, which will cause glycogen to be converted into glucose. Nice question. 343. Taking into account the pattern of glucagon concentration from 0 to 10 minutes in the graph, what will you expect to happen to the insulin concentration for the same period? Of course, if glucagon is increasing, what will happen to insulin? It will decrease. 344. Explain why people with diabetes mellitus may have very little glycogen in their liver and their muscle cells. A nice question. The lack of insulin decreases the conversion of glucose into glycogen. So that's why they have very little glycogen. Nice questions. And in those days, there was an essay. And this essay was usually section C, question 4. I like this because the examiners can still take parts of the essay and put them as short questions. Right. A goalkeeper in a soccer match prevented a goal from being scored when he dived to his right after the ball was kicked towards him. Just before he dived, he heard his teammate shout, "Your ball." Describe how his eyes adjusted to see the ball as it traveled towards him. Okay, it traveled towards him. Okay, so what has that going to do? What type of vision will that be? Describe how he heard his teammate and how he maintained balance as he dived to save the ball. So 3 parts. First part, you can see it's accommodation. Second part, you can see it's hearing. Third part, it's balance. Okay, now he was diving to the side. So that is the macula and the cristae involved, as you can see in the answer. Hearing, that's easy. And then here, the ball is coming towards him. So what will happen? This is obviously going to be near vision. Okay, so let's look at the answer. Accommodation took place. Yes, we know. Ciliary muscles contract. So are you writing for near vision? Suspensory ligaments become slack, reduces the tension on the lens becomes more convex, refractive power of the lens increases, image of the ball fell on the retina. Easy, that's the first part. Done. Hearing. Right. The sound waves was directed by the pinna through the auditory canal to the tympanic membrane, causing it to vibrate. Vibrations of the tympanic membrane were transferred to the ossicles in the middle ear, which eventually caused the window to vibrate. This set up pressure waves in the cochlea. This stimulated the organ of Corti to convert the stimulus into an ear nerve impulse, which is then transported along the auditory nerve and interpreted by the cerebrum. See, any 5 there. And the last one was balance. As a change in direction and speed of the body caused the movement of the fluid in the semicircular canals, it stimulated the cristae. Right, that's the one. A change in the position of the head stimulated the macula in the utriculus and the sacculus. The stimuli were converted into impulses, which were transported along the auditory nerve and interpreted in the cerebellum, which would send impulses to the muscles to restore balance and equilibrium. Okay, so that was the November 2014 paper grade 12s. I hope you learned a lot. Thank you for watching this video and join me and watch all my other videos as well.